I stood in my own kitchen, holding an eviction notice with my son's name typed across the top in cold, official letters. 24 hours earlier, I had been officially useless, according to Tyler. Now I was officially his landlord. The irony tasted bitter, but the empowerment felt sweeter than I'd expected. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Carrie Stewart, and I'm 53 years old. Until 3 days ago, I thought being a good mother meant sacrificing everything for your children, no matter how old they got, or how little they appreciated it. I thought love meant enabling, supporting meant never saying no, and that my worth as a parent was measured by how much I could give without asking for anything in return. I was wrong about all of it. For the past 6 years, ever since my divorce from Tyler's father, I had been operating under the assumption that my 25-year-old son needed me. Not just needed my love or guidance, but needed me to function as his personal assistant, maid service, financial institution, and emotional support system, all rolled into one convenient package that happened to live in the same house and ask for nothing in return. Tyler had moved back home after college with what I thought was a temporary plan. He'd been accepted to a graduate program in digital marketing, and the arrangement made sense financially. Why pay rent on an apartment when he could save money living at home for a year or two while he got his master's degree and launched his career? It seemed practical, even smart. I was proud of him for thinking ahead, for being financially responsible, for wanting to invest in his education rather than waste money on rent. That was 6 years ago. The graduate program had lasted 18 months. Then there had been the unpaid internship that was going to lead to amazing opportunities. Then the startup job that didn't pay much but offered equity that would be worth millions someday. Then the freelance consulting work that was just getting off the ground. Then the new business venture with his college roommate that needed just a little more time to take off. Always just a little more time. Always just around the corner. Always just one more month, one more season, one more year of needing to save money by living at home. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped being Tyler's mother and had become his unpaid staff. I cooked his meals, did his laundry, cleaned his bathroom, managed his appointments, and even handled his car insurance claims. When he needed groceries, he'd text me a list. When he couldn't find something, he'd yell for me to help him look. When his friends came over, I was expected to provide snacks and drinks and clean up afterward without being asked. The financial support had escalated gradually, too. It started with not charging him rent, which seemed reasonable for a recent graduate. Then it was covering his cell phone bill because he was family, and it made sense to keep him on the family plan. Then it was car insurance, because again, family discount. Then it was groceries, because he was eating at home anyway. Then it was gas money when work was slow. Then it was helping with his student loan payments when his freelance checks were delayed. I had become so accustomed to saying yes to every request, so trained to anticipate his needs before he even voiced them, that I didn't realize how completely I had disappeared into the role of Tyler's support system. I wasn't living my own life anymore. I was facilitating his. My friends had started making comments. Linda from my book club had stopped inviting me to weekend trips because I always had some obligation to Tyler that prevented me from going. My sister Rachel had given up on planning dinners out because I invariably had to cancel when Tyler needed something. Even my neighbor Mrs. Patterson, who was 82 and minded her own business, had asked me point blank why my grown son couldn't do his own grocery shopping. But I had explanations for everything. Tyler was building his career, and this was just a temporary phase. He was under a lot of stress with his business ventures, and I was helping him focus on what really mattered. He was saving money for his future, and my support was an investment in his success. He was going through a rough patch with his girlfriend situation, and he needed extra emotional support right now. I had convinced myself that this was what good mothers did. We sacrificed. We supported. We enabled our children to reach their full potential by removing obstacles and making their lives easier. I was being a loving, supportive parent by handling all the mundane details so Tyler could focus on achieving his dreams. The truth was, I had become so busy being useful to Tyler that I had forgotten how to be useful to myself. My own dreams had been put on indefinite hold. The photography business I'd been planning to start after the divorce never materialized because Tyler needed help with his resume and job applications. The online courses I'd enrolled in to update my marketing skills got abandoned when Tyler's freelance deadlines started requiring more of my time. The dating profile I'd half-heartedly created got deleted when Tyler went through a breakup and needed emotional support. Even my friendships had become secondary to Tyler's needs. I'd stopped making plans because I never knew when he might need something urgent. I'd stopped pursuing hobbies because my free time was spent managing Tyler's schedule, handling his errands, or simply being available in case he needed anything. Looking back now, I can see that I had created a monster. Not because Tyler was inherently selfish or cruel, but because I had systematically trained him to see me as a resource, rather than a person. I had taught him that my time had no value, that my needs were less important than his, and that love meant never expecting anything in return. Tyler had learned those lessons perfectly. The worst part wasn't even the daily tasks or the financial drain. The worst part was how invisible I had become in my own home. Tyler would walk through the kitchen while I was cooking dinner and not acknowledge my presence unless he needed something. He'd leave dishes on the counter 6 inches from the dishwasher because he knew I'd handle it. He'd use all the hot water for his 40-minute showers and never consider that I might want to shower too. When his friends came over, I became background noise. They'd raid the refrigerator I'd stocked, use dishes I'd have to wash, and leave messes I'd have to clean without anyone saying thank you or even acknowledging that I existed. I was the invisible woman who kept the house running. The magic fairy who made sure there was always food and clean clothes and toilet paper, but who didn't warrant basic courtesy or recognition. I told myself this was normal. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself this was love. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in October. I had spent the day running errands that Tyler had asked me to handle because he had back-to-back client calls. I'd picked up his dry cleaning, deposited a check for him, gotten his car inspected, and grocery shopped for a dinner party he was hosting for potential business partners. I'd spent 3 hours preparing an elaborate meal with appetizers, a main course, and dessert. I'd cleaned the house from top to bottom, set the table with our good dishes, and even bought flowers for the centerpiece. Tyler's friends arrived at 7, and I served them like a caterer at my own dining room table. During dinner, one of Tyler's friends, Marcus, complimented the food and asked who had catered it. Without missing a beat, Tyler said, quote, "Oh, my mom threw something together. She doesn't have much else going on, so she likes to keep busy." The words hit me like a physical blow, not because they were cruel, but because they were accurate. I didn't have much else going on. I had systematically eliminated everything else from my life to focus on making Tyler's life easier. After the guests left, I spent 2 hours cleaning up while Tyler disappeared upstairs to take calls with West Coast clients. When I finally finished washing dishes at nearly midnight, I knocked on his door to let him know I was going to bed. "Tyler," I said, standing in his doorway, "I'm exhausted. That was a lot of work tonight." He barely looked up from his laptop. "Yeah, thanks for helping out. The dinner went really well. I think Marcus might invest in the new project." "I'm glad it went well," I said, waiting for something more. An acknowledgement of the effort I'd put in. A thank you for the hours of preparation and cleanup. Some recognition that I had just worked a 12-hour day to make his evening successful. Instead, Tyler looked back at his screen and said, "Oh, and I meant to tell you, I'm going to need you to handle some stuff tomorrow. I've got 3 client presentations, and I don't have time to deal with personal tasks. Can you take my car in for an oil change and pick up that prescription I ordered? And maybe grab some groceries? We're out of basically everything." I stood there in his doorway, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, but a recognition. Tyler wasn't asking me to help him. He was assigning me tasks. He wasn't grateful for my support. He expected it. He wasn't appreciating my sacrifices. He had no idea I was making any. "Tyler," I said carefully, "I have plans tomorrow." This was a lie. I didn't have plans. But I wanted to see what would happen if I said I wasn't available. For the first time in our conversation, Tyler looked up from his laptop with full attention. His expression wasn't understanding or apologetic. It was annoyed. What kind of plans? He asked, as if I needed to justify having a life outside of serving his needs. Personal plans, I said, not elaborating. Tyler's frown deepened. Can't you move them? This stuff is time-sensitive. The oil change place closes early tomorrow, and I need my car for Thursday's meeting. You could take your car in yourself, I suggested gently. Tyler stared at me like I'd suggested he perform brain surgery. Mom, I told you I have 3 presentations tomorrow. I can't waste time sitting in some garage waiting room. That's why I'm asking you to handle it. Not asking, telling, expecting, assuming. What if I'm busy? I asked. Busy with what? Tyler's tone was becoming impatient, as if my potential busyness was an inconvenience he shouldn't have to deal with. You don't work Wednesdays. He was right. I didn't work Wednesdays. I had arranged my part-time consulting schedule to be available for exactly these kinds of requests. I had organized my entire life around being available for Tyler's needs. Maybe I'd like to do something for myself on my day off, I said. Tyler set down his laptop with an exasperated sigh. Mom, seriously? I'm trying to build a business here. This isn't the time for you to suddenly start being unavailable. I need your support right now. Your support. As if my time, energy, and effort were simply resources that belonged to him by default. I've been supporting you for 6 years, Tyler, I said quietly. And I appreciate it, he said quickly, clearly wanting to end this conversation and get back to work. That's why I'm asking you to help me out tomorrow. It's just a couple of errands. Just a couple of errands. Like the couple of errands I ran every week. Like the couple of meals I cooked every day. Like the couple of loads of laundry I did for him every weekend. Like the couple $100 I'd been contributing to his life every month for 6 years. What if I said no? I asked. Tyler looked at me like I'd asked what would happen if gravity stopped working. What do you mean? What if you said no? What if I said I couldn't help you tomorrow? What would you do? I'd figure something out, I guess, Tyler said, his tone suggesting this was a ridiculous hypothetical. But why would you say no? It's not like you have anything important going on. There it was. The truth Tyler had been operating under for years. The assumption that had guided our entire relationship since he'd moved back home. I didn't have anything important going on. My time wasn't valuable. My needs weren't significant. My life didn't matter except as it related to making his life easier. Maybe I do have something important going on, I said. Tyler's patience was clearly running out. Like what, Mom? What could possibly be more important than helping me with my career? The question hung in the air between us, and for the first time in years, I didn't have an answer that prioritized Tyler's needs over my own existence. My own life, I said simply. Tyler stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him trying to process this foreign concept. The idea that I might have a life separate from serving his needs was apparently so novel that he couldn't quite grasp it. Mom, you're being dramatic, he said finally. I'm not asking you to give up your life. I'm asking you to help me out tomorrow. It's one day. But it wasn't one day. It was every day. It had been every day for 6 years. Tyler, I said, when was the last time you thanked me for doing your laundry? I thank you all the time, he said defensively. When was the last time you cooked a meal in this house? I'm busy building a career. I don't have time to cook. When was the last time you cleaned your own bathroom? Mom, what is this about? Why are you acting weird? Acting weird. As if expecting basic consideration was bizarre behavior. When was the last time you asked me how I was doing? I pressed. Tyler's expression shifted from annoyance to confusion. What do you mean? I mean, when was the last time you asked me about my day, my feelings, my plans, my life? When was the last time you treated me like a person instead of a service provider? You're my mom, Tyler said, as if this explained everything. Of course I care about you. But right now I'm focused on getting my business off the ground. Once things stabilize, we can hang out more. Once things stabilize. Always in the future. Always conditional on his success. Always dependent on when it was convenient for him. What if things never stabilize?
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story.
I asked. What if you're always building something, always focused on the next project, always too busy to treat me like a human being? Tyler's frown deepened. Mom, you're being ridiculous. I'm not treating you badly, I'm just asking for help during a challenging time. 6 years is not a challenging time, Tyler. 6 years is a lifestyle. For the first time in our conversation, Tyler seemed to hear what I was actually saying. His expression shifted slightly, and I thought maybe we were about to have a real conversation about our relationship, about boundaries, about mutual respect. Instead, Tyler picked up his laptop and said, "Look, I don't have time for this drama right now. I have a presentation to finish. Can you just handle the errands tomorrow, or do I need to figure out something else?" Drama. My attempt to communicate my feelings and needs was drama. Figure out something else, I said. Tyler's head snapped up. Seriously? Seriously. Mom, this is really bad timing for you to start being difficult. Difficult. Asking to be treated with basic respect was being difficult. Maybe it's good timing, I said. Tyler stared at me for a moment, then shook his head and returned his attention to his laptop. Fine, whatever, I'll figure it out. But this attitude isn't helping anyone. I walked back to my room feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not satisfaction exactly, but a small spark of self-respect. I had said no. I had prioritized my own needs. I had refused to be taken for granted. It felt terrifying and empowering at the same time. The next morning, Tyler left for his meetings without saying goodbye. His car was still parked in the driveway when I left for my own errands, and I felt a small thrill knowing that he was going to have to solve his own problems for once. When I returned home that afternoon, Tyler was in the kitchen making a sandwich. The kitchen was a disaster. He'd used half a dozen dishes to make one sandwich, left food debris all over the counter, and somehow managed to get peanut butter on the cabinet door. How did your meetings go? I asked, genuinely curious whether he'd managed to handle his own responsibilities. Fine, Tyler said curtly. No thanks to you. What do you mean? I had to reschedule 2 client calls to deal with my car situation, Tyler said, his tone accusatory. Do you have any idea how unprofessional that looks? I had to explain to potential investors that I couldn't meet because I had to take my car to a garage. Did you get it taken care of? I asked. Eventually, but it took 3 hours out of my day. 3 hours I should have been working. I'm sorry it was inconvenient, I said, and I meant it. I wasn't trying to sabotage Tyler's career. I was trying to establish that my time had value too. Inconvenient? Tyler's voice rose. Mom, this isn't a game. My business is at a critical stage right now. I can't afford to waste time on stuff like this. Then maybe you should build car maintenance into your schedule, I suggested. Tyler looked at me like I'd suggested he learn to fly. Why would I do that when you're available to handle it? There it was again, the assumption that I existed for his convenience. Maybe I won't always be available, I said. What's that supposed to mean? I wasn't sure what it meant. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I just knew that something fundamental had shifted in me, and I couldn't go back to being Tyler's unpaid assistant. It means I have my own life to live, I said. Tyler set down his sandwich and stared at me. Mom, are you having some kind of midlife crisis? Because this attitude change is really problematic timing. Midlife crisis. As if wanting to be treated with respect was a psychological disorder. Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe I am having a crisis. A crisis of realizing that I've spent 6 years being your maid instead of your mother. That's not fair, Tyler said. I never asked you to be my maid. You've asked me to do your laundry every week for 6 years? That's different. That's helping family. You've asked me to cook your meals, clean your messes, handle your errands, manage your appointments, and solve your problems. How is that different from hiring a maid? Because you're my mom, Tyler said, as if this was obvious. Moms help their kids. Kids are children, Tyler. You're 25 years old. So what? You're just going to stop helping me now? Right when my business is taking off? I'm going to stop enabling you, I said. There's a difference. Tyler's face flushed with anger. Enabling me? Mom, I'm working my ass off to build something. I'm not some deadbeat living in your basement playing video games. I'm an entrepreneur. Living rent-free in my house while I handle all your personal responsibilities so you can focus on your work, I pointed out. That's what families do. They support each other. Support goes both ways, Tyler. What do you do to support me? Tyler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. I could see him mentally scrolling through our interactions, trying to come up with examples of how he supported me. I keep you company, he said finally. When? When do you keep me company? We live in the same house. We see each other every day. Seeing each other and keeping each other company are different things. When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about something you needed? Tyler was quiet for a moment. We talk all the time. We transact all the time. You tell me what you need, and I provide it. That's not conversation. You're making this sound worse than it is. Am I? Tell me about my job, Tyler. You do consulting work for marketing firms. What kind of consulting? Tyler hesitated. Marketing stuff. What specific kind of marketing? I don't know the details. Some kind of digital strategy thing. I specialize in content marketing for healthcare companies. I've been doing it for 3 years. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Okay, so I don't know the specifics of your job. That doesn't mean I don't care about you. Tell me about my friends. You have lots of friends. Name 3. Another hesitation. Linda. And that woman from book club. And Mrs. Patterson. Mrs. Patterson is our neighbor, not my friend. And you can't remember the name of anyone else from my book club because you've never asked about my book club. You don't know what books we read, where we meet, or what I get out of it. Mom, this is getting ridiculous. Is it? Tell me what I want to do with my life. What are my goals, my dreams, my plans for the future? Tyler stared at me, and I could see the realization dawning on his face. He had no idea who I was beyond my function in his life. I want to start a photography business, I said when he didn't answer. I've been planning it for 6 years, but I've never had the time or energy to get it off the ground because I've been too busy managing your life. I didn't know you wanted to do photography, Tyler said quietly. I've mentioned it dozens of times. You just weren't listening because it didn't affect you. Tyler sat down at the kitchen island, and for the first time in our conversation, he looked uncertain rather than defensive. Mom, I didn't realize you felt this way. I know you didn't. That's part of the problem. So what do you want me to do? It was a simple question, but it was the first time Tyler had asked what I wanted instead of telling me what he needed. I want you to start taking responsibility for your own life, I said. I want you to stop treating me like hired help and start treating me like a person. I want you to contribute to this household instead of just taking from it. I contribute, Tyler said. I help with groceries sometimes. Tyler, you eat about 80% of the groceries in this house, and you've bought groceries maybe 10 times in 6 years. I've been saving money to invest in my business by having me subsidize your entire life. Tyler was quiet for a moment. I never thought about it that way. I know. That's the problem. We sat in silence for several minutes. I could see Tyler processing this new perspective, this idea that maybe our arrangement hadn't been as mutually beneficial as he'd assumed. What if I started helping out more? Tyler asked finally. With cooking and cleaning and stuff? That would be a start, I said. But it's not just about the tasks, Tyler. It's about respect. It's about recognizing that I'm a person with my own life, not just a support system for yours. I do respect you. You respect what I can do for you. You don't respect who I am. Tyler looked genuinely confused. What's the difference? The difference is that when you respect someone as a person, you're interested in their thoughts, feelings, and experiences, even when they don't directly benefit you. You ask how their day was and actually listen to the answer. You notice when they're tired or stressed and offer to help. You consider their needs when making decisions that affect them. I never thought about it like that, Tyler admitted. I know, and that's because I've trained you not to. I've made it so easy for you to take me for granted that you forgot I was a person who could be taken for granted. Tyler rubbed his face with his hands. So what happens now? Now we figure out a new way to live together. One where I'm your mother, not your employee. What does that look like? I don't know yet, but it starts with you taking responsibility for your own basic needs, and it includes you contributing to this household in meaningful ways. Tyler nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that one conversation could undo 6 years of established patterns. But I also knew that real change would require more than good intentions. I hope so, I said. Because I'm not going back to the way things were. I understand, Tyler said, though I wasn't sure he really did. The next few days brought small changes. Tyler did his own laundry, though he left it in the dryer for 3 days until I finally folded it and put it on his bed. He cooked dinner one night, though he used every pot and pan in the kitchen and left me to clean up the disaster. He bought groceries once, though he forgot half the items on the list and bought the wrong brands of everything else. The effort was there, but it felt performative, like Tyler was checking boxes rather than fundamentally shifting his mindset. He was helping out more, but he still wasn't really seeing me. He still interrupted my phone calls when he needed something. He still left messes for me to discover. He still made plans that affected me without consulting me first. Most tellingly, he still hadn't asked me anything about my photography business, my book club, or my life outside of our household logistics. The real test came the following Friday. Tyler's business partner was coming to town for a weekend intensive planning session, and Tyler informed me that they'd be working from the house and would need meals provided. Just something simple, Tyler said casually while I was making my morning coffee. Maybe sandwiches for lunch, and I was thinking you could make that pasta thing for dinner. Nothing fancy. I set down my coffee mug and looked at him. When is this happening? This weekend? Starting tonight. Jake's flight gets in around 6, so dinner around 7 would be perfect. You're telling me this now? On Friday morning? I meant to mention it earlier, but things have been crazy with the investor calls. It's not a big deal, right? You said yourself you don't have plans this weekend. Whether or not I have plans isn't the point, Tyler. The point is that you're asking me to provide catering services for your business meeting without any advance notice. I'm not asking you to cater anything, Tyler said, sounding frustrated. I'm asking you to help me out with a really important weekend. This could determine the future of my company. And you want me to contribute my time and labor to your company without pay, without advance notice, and without even being asked politely? Tyler stared at me. You want me to pay you to make dinner? I want you to recognize that my time has value, and that providing meals for your business meetings is work that deserves consideration and appreciation. Mom, this is ridiculous. We live in the same house. You have to eat anyway. I have to eat. Jake doesn't. And neither of you has to eat elaborate meals that I plan, shop for, prepare, and clean up after. So what are you saying? You won't help me? I'm saying that if you want me to provide meals for your business meeting, you need to ask me properly, give me adequate notice, and offer to compensate me for my time and effort. Compensate you? Tyler's voice was rising. You want me to pay my own mother to cook dinner? No, Tyler. I want you to recognize that asking your mother to provide unpaid catering services for your business is unreasonable. Other mothers would be happy to help their sons succeed. Other mothers might, but I'm not other mothers. I'm your mother, and I'm telling you what I need from this relationship. Tyler shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Right when everything is coming together for my business, you decide to start being difficult. I'm not being difficult. I'm being clear about my boundaries. Your boundaries are going to cost me this partnership. Your poor planning might cost you this partnership. This is your business meeting, Tyler. It's your responsibility to handle the logistics. Fine, Tyler said angrily. I'll figure something else out. But this is really disappointing, Mom. I thought I could count on you. You can count on me to be your mother. You can't count on me to be your unpaid employee. Tyler left the house without another word, and I spent the day feeling a mixture of guilt and relief. Part of me wanted to call him and offer to help, to smooth things over and make his weekend easier. But I knew that giving in now would undo any progress we'd made. Tyler came home that evening with Jake and a stack of takeout containers. They worked in the dining room with the doors closed, and I caught glimpses of them through the weekend as they ordered delivery meals and left dishes scattered around the house. On Sunday evening, after Jake had left for the airport, Tyler found me in the living room reading. "I hope you're happy," he said, his tone cold. "The weekend was a disaster. We spent more money on food delivery than we had budgeted. The presentations were disorganized because we were constantly dealing with meal logistics. And Jake thinks I'm not ready for a serious business partnership because I can't even handle basic hosting." "I'm sorry the weekend didn't go well," I said, and I meant it. "Are you? Because it seems like you sabotaged it on purpose." "Tyler, I didn't sabotage anything. You had a logistics problem, and you tried to solve it by assigning me work without my consent. When I declined, you found another solution. The other solution sucked. Then maybe next time you'll plan better, or budget for catering, or choose a different venue. There were lots of options available to you. None of them as convenient as having you handle everything." "Exactly. You wanted convenience, not help. You wanted to use me as a resource, not include me as a partner." Tyler sat down across from me, and I could see the frustration and confusion in his face. "I don't understand what happened to you, Mom. You used to be supportive." "I'm still supportive. I'm just not enabling anymore." "What's the difference?" "Supporting you means helping you become independent and capable. Enabling you means doing things for you that you should be doing for yourself." "So you're never going to help me again?" "I'll help you in ways that actually help you grow. I won't help you in ways that keep you dependent on me." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "This is all because I didn't thank you enough, isn't it?" He still didn't get it. It wasn't about gratitude, though that would have been nice. It was about respect, recognition, and reciprocity. "Tyler," I said gently, "when you were little, I did everything for you because you were a child who couldn't take care of himself. But you're not a child anymore. You're a grown man who's perfectly capable of handling his own responsibilities." "I know I'm capable. I just thought it was more efficient this way." "More efficient for you, not for me. I never thought about it from your perspective." "I know, and that's the problem." Tyler leaned back in his chair and sighed. "So what do you want from me?" "I want you to see me as a whole person, not just as someone who exists to make your life easier. I want you to be interested in my life, not just in what I can do for your life. I want you to contribute to our household and our relationship, instead of just taking from it. And if I do those things, you'll go back to helping me? Tyler, I'll always be your mother. I'll always care about you and want to support you. But I won't go back to being your personal assistant. That relationship wasn't healthy for either of us. It worked fine for me. That's exactly why it wasn't healthy." Tyler rubbed his temples like he was getting a headache. "This is a lot to process." "I know. It's a big change for both of us. What if I can't do it? What if I can't be the kind of son you want me to be? Then you'll need to find another living arrangement," I said simply. Tyler's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I mean that if you can't treat me with respect and contribute to this household, then this living arrangement isn't working for either of us." "You'd kick me out?" "I'd stop enabling you to treat me badly." Tyler stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him processing this new reality. For 6 years, he'd taken for granted that I would always be available, always accommodating, always willing to sacrifice my own needs for his convenience. The idea that there might be consequences for taking me for granted was apparently shocking. "How long do I have?" he asked finally. "How long do you have for what?" "To prove that I can change, to show you that I can be better." "Tyler, this isn't a test with a deadline. This is a new way of relating to each other. Either you want to treat me with respect or you don't. Either you want to contribute to our relationship or you don't." "But what if I mess up? What if I forget and fall back into old patterns?" "Then we'll talk about it and you'll try again. Change takes time, and I understand that. But I need to see genuine effort, not just performance." Tyler nodded slowly. "Okay, I can do that." "I hope so," I said. "Because I love you, Tyler, but I won't go back to being invisible in my own life." For a moment, I thought we'd reached an understanding. Tyler seemed to finally grasp the seriousness of the situation, and I felt cautiously optimistic that we could rebuild our relationship on a healthier foundation. That optimism lasted exactly 3 days. On Wednesday morning, I woke up to find Tyler's breakfast dishes in the sink, coffee grounds scattered across the counter, and a sticky note on the refrigerator that read, "Mom, can you pick up my prescription and grab milk?" "Thanks!" The exclamation point felt like mockery. I stood in my kitchen, still in my pajamas, staring at that yellow sticky note and feeling something cold settle in my stomach. After everything we'd discussed, after his promises to change, after what I thought was a breakthrough in our relationship, Tyler had reverted to treating me like his personal assistant within 72 hours. The prescription pickup was particularly galling because Tyler had specifically mentioned during our Sunday conversation that he needed to take more responsibility for his own health care. I had agreed that managing his medical appointments and prescriptions was something he should handle himself, especially since he was 25 years old and perfectly capable of calling his own doctor. But here was the sticky note, casually assuming I would drop everything to handle his errands. I peeled the note off the refrigerator and walked upstairs to Tyler's room. His door was closed, and I could hear him on a phone call with what sounded like a potential client. I knocked and waited. "Just a second," Tyler called out, then continued his conversation for another 5 minutes while I stood in the hallway. When he finally opened the door, he looked annoyed at the interruption. "What's up?" he asked, keeping one hand on his phone as if he was eager to get back to his call. I held up the sticky note. "We need to talk about this." Tyler glanced at the note and shrugged. "It's just a quick errand. The pharmacy is right by the grocery store. Tyler, 3 days ago you promised to start taking responsibility for your own life." "I am taking responsibility. I'm building my client base, I'm working on new proposals, I'm handling all the important stuff. And who's handling the unimportant stuff? It's just a prescription pickup, Mom. It takes 5 minutes. So you can do it yourself." Tyler's expression shifted from casual dismissal to irritation. "I'm in the middle of closing a deal. I can't just disappear for an hour to run errands. Then you can do it this evening. Or tomorrow. Or whenever you have time in your schedule. But you're going to the store anyway." "How do you know I'm going to the store?" Tyler looked confused by the question. "Because we need milk." "We don't need milk, Tyler. You need milk." "I drink tea." "Okay, so you need milk for when you cook." "I cook for myself now. If you want milk for your cereal and coffee, you can buy it yourself." Tyler stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Mom, this is ridiculous. You're making a big deal out of nothing." "Am I? Or am I trying to establish boundaries that you keep ignoring?" "I'm not ignoring boundaries. I left you a note asking politely." "You left me a note assigning me tasks. There's a difference." Tyler's phone buzzed with what was probably the client calling back, and I could see his attention split between our conversation and his business obligations. "Look, can we discuss this later? This call is really important." "More important than our relationship?" "Of course not, but this is a time-sensitive business opportunity." "And my time isn't valuable?" Tyler's frustration was clearly mounting. "Your time is valuable, but you're not in the middle of closing a deal that could change everything for my company." "Right, because my life isn't as important as your business." "That's not what I said." "It's what you implied." Again, Tyler glanced at his phone, which was now ringing insistently. "Mom, I really need to take this call. Can you just handle the prescription thing today? And we'll figure out a better system later?" "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no, I'm not going to handle your prescription. You're an adult, and you can manage your own health care." Tyler's expression hardened. "Fine. I'll figure it out myself." "Good. But this is really bad timing for you to start being difficult about everything." There was that word again. Difficult. As if expecting basic respect was being difficult. "I'm not being difficult, Tyler. I'm being consistent." Tyler answered his phone and closed his door without another word, leaving me standing in the hallway holding his sticky note and wondering why I felt like the unreasonable one. Over the next few weeks, similar scenes played out with depressing regularity. Tyler would make small efforts to help around the house, then gradually slip back into old patterns of expecting me to handle anything he considered beneath his attention. He'd do his laundry once, then leave subsequent loads for me to deal with. He'd cook dinner one night, then assume I would take over meal preparation for the rest of the week. Most frustratingly, he never seemed to recognize that he was backsliding. When I pointed out that he'd left his dishes in the sink for 3 days, he'd act surprised and claim he'd been planning to wash them. When I mentioned that he hadn't contributed to groceries in 2 weeks, he'd insist that he'd just been busy, but was definitely planning to help out. Always planning. Always intending. Never actually doing. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in November. I had spent the day working with a difficult client who was demanding major revisions to a campaign strategy I'd spent weeks developing. It was the kind of day that left me mentally exhausted and emotionally drained. The kind of day when I just wanted to come home to peace and quiet. Instead, I walked into a kitchen that looked like a tornado had hit it. Tyler had apparently decided to make breakfast for dinner, which somehow required using every pan, bowl, and utensil in the house. Eggshells were scattered across the counter, flour was spilled on the floor, and there was what looked like pancake batter splattered on the cabinet doors. Tyler was nowhere to be seen, but I could hear his television upstairs. I stood in the doorway of my kitchen, looking at the disaster, and felt something snap inside me. Not anger, exactly, but a kind of cold clarity. This was my house. My kitchen. My dishes that would need to be washed. My floor that would need to be mopped. My counters that would need to be scrubbed. And Tyler was upstairs, watching Netflix, having created this mess, and walked away from it without a second thought. I climbed the stairs and knocked on Tyler's door. "Come in," he called out. Tyler was sprawled on his bed with his laptop, watching what appeared to be a comedy special. His room was its usual disaster zone of dirty clothes, empty food containers, and business papers scattered across every surface. "Tyler, the kitchen is destroyed." "Oh yeah, I made some food earlier. I'll clean it up later." "When later?" Tyler didn't look away from his screen. "I don't know, after this show? I'm trying to decompress after a really stressful day." "I also had a stressful day." "Yeah? What happened?" It was the first time in weeks that Tyler had asked me about my day, but his attention was still on his laptop, and I could tell he was asking out of politeness rather than genuine interest. "My client rejected 2 weeks of work and wants me to start over with a completely different approach." "That sucks," Tyler said, still not looking at me. "But at least you're not trying to build a business from scratch." Always the comparison. Tyler's struggles were always more significant, more stressful, more deserving of consideration than anyone else's. "Tyler, I need you to clean up the kitchen." I said I'll do it later. "I need you to do it now." For the first time, Tyler looked up from his laptop. "Why now?" "It's not like the mess is going anywhere." "Because I can't relax in my own home when there's a disaster area downstairs that I didn't create. So don't look at it. Just hang out up here until I get to it." "This is my house, Tyler. I shouldn't have to hide in my bedroom to avoid messes you've made." Tyler sighed dramatically and paused his show. "Mom, I'm really not in the mood for another lecture about household responsibilities. I had 3 client calls fall through today, and I'm trying to unwind. And I'm trying to come home to a peaceful environment after a difficult day at work. So we're both having bad days. Can't the dishes wait until tomorrow? Can't your show wait until you've cleaned up your mess?" Tyler stared at me for a moment, and I could see him weighing his options. He was clearly hoping I would back down, accept his promise to clean up later, and leave him alone to watch television. "Fine," he said finally, his tone making it clear that he was doing me an enormous favor. "I'll go deal with the kitchen." But this constant nagging isn't helping anyone. Nagging. Asking him to clean up after himself was nagging. "Tyler, I want you to think about something while you're cleaning up that kitchen." "What?" "I want you to think about whether you would treat a roommate the way you treat me." "What do you mean?" "I mean, if you lived with a roommate and you destroyed the kitchen, would you leave the mess for them to clean up? Would you expect them to buy your groceries and do your laundry and handle your errands? Would you dismiss their concerns as nagging?" Tyler's frown deepened. "That's different. A roommate isn't family." "You're right. A roommate would have kicked you out months ago." Tyler climbed off his bed with exaggerated reluctance and headed toward the door. "I don't know what you want from me, Mom. I'm doing my best here." Are you? Are you really doing your best to be a good housemate and a respectful son? I'm trying to build a business. That has to be my priority right now. Your business doesn't require you to treat me like hired help. I don't treat you like hired help. Tyler, you leave messes for me to clean. You expect me to handle your personal errands. You take my time and effort for granted, and you never ask what I need or how you can help me. How is that different from how you treat hired help? Tyler stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable. I guess I never thought about it that way. That's the problem. You never think about it from my perspective. Tyler went downstairs to clean the kitchen, and I could hear him clattering around with obvious resentment. Every pot seemed to be slammed a little harder than necessary, every cabinet door closed with slightly more force than required. When he finished, he appeared in my doorway again. There, the kitchen is clean. Are you happy now? I'm glad you cleaned up your mess. But no, I'm not happy. Why not? I did what you asked. Because you did it with resentment, like you were being punished for something unreasonable. I'm just tired, Mom. It's been a long day. For both of us. But I didn't take my frustration out on you by being passive-aggressive about doing basic adult responsibilities. Tyler rubbed his face with his hands. What do you want me to say? I cleaned the kitchen. I want you to understand why it needed to be cleaned and why it was your responsibility to clean it. Because you asked me to. No, Tyler, because you made the mess. Because you live here too. Because part of being an adult is cleaning up after yourself without being asked. Okay, I get it. I should have cleaned up without you having to ask. Do you? Do you really get it? Tyler looked at me with a mixture of confusion and frustration. I don't know what else you want me to say. I want you to recognize that this pattern of behavior is disrespectful and unsustainable. What pattern? Tyler, you make messes and expect me to clean them. You create problems and expect me to solve them. You have needs and expect me to meet them. What do you give back to this relationship? I'm your son. You're supposed to help me. I'm supposed to love you and support you, not enable you to avoid growing up. I am grown up. Grown-ups don't leave messes for their mothers to clean. It was one mess. It's every mess, Tyler. It's every errand, every responsibility, every inconvenience that you hand off to me because it's easier than dealing with it yourself. Tyler sat down heavily in the chair across from my bed. So what do you want? Do you want me to move out? I want you to start acting like a partner in this household instead of a burden I'm carrying. A burden? Tyler, you contribute nothing to this household except problems for me to solve. You don't pay rent, you don't buy groceries, you don't clean, you don't cook, and you don't show any appreciation for what I do provide. How is that not a burden? I'm building a business. I'm investing in my future. At my expense, I'll pay you back when the business takes off. With what money? Tyler, you've been saying your business is about to take off for 3 years. At what point do you accept that maybe your current approach isn't working? Tyler's face flushed with anger. My business is working. These things take time. Your business might be working, but your life skills aren't. You're 25 years old, and you can't handle basic adult responsibilities. Because I'm focused on more important things. More important than being able to take care of yourself? More important than worrying about dirty dishes when I'm trying to build something that could set me up for life. Tyler, you could build the most successful business in the world, but if you can't do your own laundry and clean up your own messes, you're still going to struggle in life. That's what assistants are for. I stared at my son, wondering when he had become someone who thought basic life skills were beneath him. Is that what you think I am? Your assistant? Of course not. You're my mom. Then why do you treat me like an assistant? Tyler was quiet for a moment. I don't mean to. But you do. And intention doesn't matter if the impact is the same. So what do you want me to do? I want you to start taking full responsibility for your own life. I want you to contribute to this household in meaningful ways. And I want you to treat me with the respect you'd show any other adult. And if I can't do that, then you'll need to find somewhere else to live. Tyler looked shocked. You'd really kick me out? I'd really stop enabling you to treat me badly. Where would I go? That would be your problem to solve, wouldn't it? Tyler stared at me for a long moment. This is insane, Mom. You're talking about destroying our family over some dirty dishes. I'm talking about saving our relationship before it's too late. How is kicking me out saving our relationship? Because right now we don't have a relationship. We have an arrangement where I provide services and you take them for granted. That's not a family dynamic, Tyler. That's an employer-employee relationship where the employee doesn't show up and the employer doesn't get paid. Tyler stood up and began pacing around my room. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Right when everything is starting to come together with my business. Your business has been starting to come together for 6 years. This time is different. How? I've got some serious investors interested. Real money, not just friends and family. That's great, Tyler. I'm genuinely happy for you. But your business success doesn't excuse treating me like a servant. I don't treat you like a servant. Then what would you call it when you leave messes for me to clean, expect me to handle your errands, and dismiss my concerns as nagging? Tyler stopped pacing and looked at me. I call it being family. Family members respect each other. Family members contribute to each other's well-being. Family members don't take each other for granted. I don't take you for granted. Tyler, when was the last time you thanked me for something? I thank you all the time. When? Give me a specific example from this week. Tyler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. I could see him trying to remember, scrolling through our recent interactions. I'm sure I thanked you for something, he said finally. You're sure, but you can't remember what. That doesn't mean I'm not grateful. Gratitude that's never expressed isn't really gratitude. It's just a feeling you keep to yourself. Tyler sat back down and put his head in his hands. I don't know how to do this, Mom. Do what? Be the kind of son you want me to be. I don't know how to live up to your expectations. My expectations are very simple, Tyler. Clean up after yourself. Handle your own responsibilities. Contribute to the household. Treat me with respect. These aren't unreasonable expectations. They feel overwhelming. Why? Because I've got so much going on with work. I don't have mental space to think about household stuff. Tyler, household stuff is part of life. You can't just ignore it because you're busy. Other successful people have help with this stuff. Other successful people pay for help. They don't expect their mothers to provide free labor. So you want me to pay you? I want you to recognize that what I've been doing for you has value and that I've been doing it for free for 6 years. Tyler looked up at me. How much? How much what? How much should I pay you for rent and household stuff? I hadn't expected him to ask this question, and I realized I didn't have an answer ready. Tyler, this isn't really about money. It's about respect and reciprocity. But if it was about money, how much would it cost? I thought about it for a moment. Market rate for a 1-bedroom apartment around here is about $1,500 a month. Add utilities, groceries, housekeeping, laundry service, and personal assistant work, and you're probably looking at around $3,000 a month. Tyler's eyes widened. $3,000? That's what it would cost you to live independently with the same level of service you get from me. I don't have $3,000 a month. I know. That's why you're living here for free while I subsidize your lifestyle. Tyler was quiet for several minutes, and I could see him processing this information. I never thought about it in those terms, he said finally. I know, but that's the reality of what I've been providing. So what do you want? Do you want me to pay rent? I want you to understand the value of what you've been receiving for free, and I want you to start contributing in ways that make sense for your situation. What kind of contributions? Maybe you can't pay full market rent, but you could pay something. Maybe you can't hire a housekeeper, but you can clean the house yourself. Maybe you can't afford a personal assistant, but you can handle your own errands. Tyler nodded slowly. That makes sense. Does it? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? It makes sense. I've been taking advantage of you without realizing it. And what are you going to do about that? I'm going to start paying rent. And I'm going to take care of my own stuff. And I'm going to help out around the house. Starting when? Starting now. I wanted to believe him, but I'd heard similar promises before. Tyler, I need to see consistent change over time, not just good intentions for a few days. I understand. Do you? Because this conversation has become a pattern. You promise to change. You make small efforts for a few days. Then you slip back into old habits. This time will be different. Why? Because I finally understand what I've been doing to you. I hope so. Because I meant what I said about finding other living arrangements if this doesn't work out. Tyler looked at me seriously. How long do I have? How long do you have for what? To prove that I can change. To show you that I'm serious about this. Tyler, I'm not setting a deadline. I'm establishing ongoing expectations. Either you're willing to be a responsible housemate and a respectful son, or you're not. But what if I mess up? What if I forget and fall back into old patterns? Then we'll address it when it happens. But I need to see genuine effort, not just performance when you think I'm watching. Tyler nodded. I can do that. I hope so, because I love you. But I won't continue to enable behavior that's disrespectful to both of us. How is it disrespectful to me? Because I'm not helping you grow into the man you're capable of being. I'm keeping you dependent and immature by doing things you should be doing yourself. Tyler considered this. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. It's easier to see enabling as helping than to recognize it as harm. So you're saying that all these years, you were actually hurting me by helping me? I'm saying that there's a difference between supporting someone and doing everything for them. Support helps people grow stronger. Enabling keeps them weak. Tyler was quiet for a moment. I don't want to be weak. Then you need to start doing things that make you stronger. Like what? Like taking responsibility for your own life. Like solving your own problems. Like contributing to relationships instead of just taking from them. Tyler stood up. Okay. I'm going to start tonight. Start what tonight? Taking responsibility. I'm going to clean my room, do my laundry, and make a budget for rent payments. That sounds like a good beginning. Tyler headed toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Mom? Yes? Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For caring enough to have these difficult conversations. For pushing me to be better. It was the first time in months that Tyler had thanked me for something that wasn't a favor I'd done for him. You're welcome, I said. Tyler went to his room, and I could hear him moving around, apparently cleaning and organizing. It was a promising start, but I'd learned not to put too much stock in initial enthusiasm. Real change would take time, consistency, and a fundamental shift in how Tyler saw himself and our relationship. I had no idea if he was capable of making that shift, but I was finally ready to find out. Tyler's newfound motivation lasted exactly 11 days. I know because I marked each day on my calendar, watching hopefully as he maintained his room, handled his own errands, and even cooked dinner twice. On day 12, I came home to find his dirty dishes stacked in the sink, and a text message asking if I could swing by the bank to deposit a check for him because he was swamped with client work. The old Carrie would have sighed, washed his dishes, and driven to the bank. The new Carrie screenshot his text message and saved it in a folder on my phone, labeled Evidence. I was building a case, though I wasn't entirely sure yet what I planned to do with it. The December incident happened on a Friday evening that should have been a celebration. Tyler had landed his biggest client yet, a local restaurant chain that wanted him to revamp their entire digital marketing strategy. It was exactly the kind of breakthrough he'd been working toward for years, and I was genuinely proud of him. When he burst through the front door that evening, practically vibrating with excitement, I felt the same maternal pride I'd experienced when he made the honor roll in high school, or scored the winning goal in soccer. This was my son achieving his dreams, and despite everything that had been happening between us, I wanted to share in his joy. Mom! Tyler called out, finding me in the living room where I was working on editing photos for a potential client. You're not going to believe what just happened. Tell me, I said, saving my work and giving him my full attention. Tyler launched into the story of his presentation, how the restaurant owners had been impressed with his proposal, how they'd agreed to a 6-month contract worth more money than he'd ever made before. His enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself smiling as he paced around the room, gesturing animatedly as he described his vision for their social media campaigns. This changes everything, Tyler said, flopping onto the couch with a huge grin. This is the client that's going to establish my reputation. Other businesses are going to see what I do for Romano's restaurants and want to hire me too. I'm so proud of you, I said, meaning it completely. You've worked incredibly hard for this. I know. And the timing is perfect because I've been thinking about what we talked about me contributing more around here. My heart lifted. Maybe Tyler's success would give him the confidence and motivation to follow through on his promises about being a better housemate and son. Now that I've got steady income coming in, I can start paying you rent, Tyler continued. Not full market rate yet, because I need to invest most of this money back into the business, but I can definitely contribute something. That would be wonderful. And I was thinking, to celebrate landing this client, I could take you out to dinner tonight. My treat. I was touched by the gesture. It had been months since Tyler had offered to spend money on anything that wasn't directly related to his business or personal needs. I'd love that, I said. Great. And actually, since this is such a big deal, I was thinking maybe we could invite a few people, like Jake, and maybe Marcus from my networking group, and that girl Chelsea I've been seeing. Make it a real celebration. My enthusiasm dimmed slightly. What had started as Tyler offering to take me to dinner was now turning into Tyler hosting a party that I would presumably help pay for. How many people are we talking about? I asked carefully. Just a few, maybe 6 or 8. We could go to that steakhouse downtown, the one with the private dining room. Tyler? That's going to be very expensive. I know, but this is a huge milestone. I want to celebrate properly. And who's paying for this celebration? Tyler's expression flickered with uncertainty. Well, I thought maybe we could split it. I'll cover my part and maybe a little extra, and you could help with the rest. Just this once, to celebrate. There it was. Tyler's big gesture of taking me to dinner had transformed into me helping fund his celebration party. Even his success was becoming another way for him to extract resources from me. Tyler, if you want to celebrate with your friends, that's wonderful. But you should pay for your own celebration. I can't afford to take 8 people to an expensive restaurant. Then maybe you should choose a less expensive restaurant. Or invite fewer people. Or wait until you can afford the celebration you want. Tyler's excitement was rapidly giving way to frustration. Mom, this is the biggest moment of my career so far. I want to do it right. Doing it right means celebrating within your means. But this client is going to change everything for me. The money I make from this contract will more than pay for one dinner. Then use that money when you actually receive it. You know, business doesn't work that way. I don't get paid until I deliver results. Then you don't have money to spend on expensive celebrations. Tyler sat forward on the couch, his earlier joy completely evaporated. I can't believe you're being so cheap about this. Cheap. As if expecting him to pay for his own party was being cheap. I'm not being cheap, Tyler. I'm being realistic about money. Something you might want to try. This is one dinner, Mom. One night to celebrate something I've worked years to achieve. And you're welcome to celebrate however you can afford to celebrate. What's the point of having family if they won't support you during important moments? Supporting you doesn't mean funding your lifestyle. Tyler stood up and began pacing again, but this time his energy was agitated rather than joyful. I just landed the biggest client of my career, and instead of being happy for me, you're nickeling and diming me about dinner. I am happy for you. I'm thrilled for you. But your success doesn't obligate me to pay for your party. It's not a party, it's a celebration. It's a party that you want me to help fund. I'm offering to pay my share. Your share of what? A party you planned without consulting me, at a restaurant you chose, with guests you invited? Tyler stopped pacing and stared at me. You're really not going to help me celebrate? I'm happy to celebrate with you in a way that fits your budget. My budget doesn't allow for the kind of celebration this deserves. Then maybe you need to adjust your expectations to match your reality. Tyler's face flushed with anger. You know what? Forget it. I'll figure something else out. Tyler, I'm not trying to ruin your celebration, I'm just not going to fund it. Right. Because everything has to be about money with you now. Everything has to be about realistic expectations and personal responsibility. Personal responsibility? I just landed a huge client through my own hard work. Yes, you did, and that's wonderful. But landing a client doesn't mean you suddenly have unlimited funds to spend. Tyler grabbed his phone from the coffee table. I'm going to call Jake and see if he wants to grab a beer to celebrate. At least some people know how to be supportive. Have fun, I said. Tyler headed toward the door, then turned back. You know what's funny? What? I was actually planning to use tonight as a chance to talk about rent payments and household contributions. I thought we could discuss it over dinner, make it a positive conversation. We can still have that conversation. Not anymore. You've made it clear that your support comes with too many strings attached. My support comes with the expectation that you take responsibility for your own choices. Same thing, Tyler said, and walked out. I sat in my living room listening to Tyler's car pull out of the driveway, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness because I had wanted to celebrate his success, and relief because I had managed to maintain my boundaries, even when it would have been easier to give in. Tyler came home around midnight, and I could hear him talking loudly on the phone as he climbed the stairs. From what I could gather, he'd convinced Jake and a couple of other friends to meet him at a sports bar, where they'd apparently had their own celebration that Tyler had somehow managed to fund. The next morning, I found Tyler's credit card statement on the kitchen counter. He'd left it there either carelessly or deliberately, and I couldn't help but notice that he'd charged over $200 at the sports bar the night before. $200 he claimed not to have for our dinner, but somehow found for drinks with his friends. I was still processing this discovery when Tyler appeared in the kitchen, looking hungover and grumpy. How was your celebration? I asked neutrally. Fine, Tyler muttered, pouring himself coffee. Jake thinks you are being unreasonable about dinner. Jake doesn't pay my bills. Neither do I, apparently, which seems to be a problem for you. Tyler, you spent $200 last night. You could have paid for dinner for both of us with that money. Tyler glanced at the credit card statement on the counter. That's different. How is it different? Because last night was about business networking. Jake knows people in the industry, and Marcus has connections I need. It was an investment. An investment in what? In relationships. In building my professional network. You wouldn't understand. There it was again. The dismissive assumption that I couldn't understand the complexities of Tyler's business world. I understand that you found money for what you wanted to spend money on. That's not fair, isn't it? You claimed you couldn't afford to celebrate properly, but then you went out and spent more money than our dinner would have cost. Tyler sat down at the kitchen island with his coffee. Look, I'm sorry about last night. I was just excited and disappointed, and I took it out on you. I accept your apology. Good. So can we move past this and talk about the rent situation? Of course. Tyler pulled out his phone and opened what appeared to be a notes app. I've been thinking about what you said, about contributing fairly to the household. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I can pay you $300 a month starting in January. That's not nothing, and it's what I can afford while I'm building my business. I thought about this offer. $300 was certainly better than nothing, but it was also less than 20% of what Tyler would pay for market rate rent and household services. What does that $300 cover? I asked. Rent, my share of utilities, basic household contributions. What about groceries? I figured groceries could stay the way they are now. It's not like you're buying different food because I'm here. Tyler, you eat probably 60% of the groceries in this house, but you have to eat anyway. I don't have to buy steaks and fancy cheeses and energy drinks and all the other expensive items you prefer. Tyler frowned. So you want me to pay for groceries separately? I want you to pay for what you consume. That seems really complicated. How would we track who ate what? The same way roommates do. You buy your food, I'll buy mine. But we're not roommates. We're family. Family members still need to contribute fairly to household expenses. Tyler made some notes on his phone. Okay, fine. I'll buy my own groceries. What about household supplies, like toilet paper and cleaning stuff? What about them? Do I need to pay for those separately too? Tyler, these are basic adult responsibilities. Everyone who lives in a house contributes to the cost of maintaining that house. Right, which is why I'm offering to pay rent. $300 a month doesn't cover your actual costs. What do you mean? I went to my desk and pulled out a folder where I'd been tracking household expenses since our conversation started getting serious. I've been keeping track of what it actually costs to support your presence in this house, I said, opening the folder. Utilities increase by about $80 a month when you're here versus when you're traveling. Groceries average about $400 more per month. Household supplies, toiletries, and miscellaneous items add another $100. That's before we factor in wear and tear on appliances, increased cleaning time, or any of the personal services I provide. Tyler stared at the numbers I'd written down. You've been tracking my expenses? I've been tracking what it costs to support an additional adult in this household. That's kind of creepy, Mom. It's called budgeting. Most adults do it. Tyler studied my calculations. So you're saying I cost you almost $600 a month just to exist here? I'm saying that's what it costs to maintain your current lifestyle. But I don't need to maintain my current lifestyle. I could cut back. How? I could eat less expensive food. I could take shorter showers. I could be more careful about electricity usage. You could, but you haven't. And I haven't seen any evidence that you actually intend to. Tyler closed my folder. So what are you saying? That $300 isn't enough? I'm saying that $300 covers about half of your actual costs. And you want me to pay the full amount? I want you to pay a fair amount. What's fair? What would be fair if I were your landlord instead of your mother? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Are you my landlord now? I'm trying to figure out what our relationship is, Tyler, because it's not working as a traditional mother-son relationship. What do you mean? I mean that most adult children don't live with their parents rent-free while expecting full household services. Lots of people live with their parents to save money. And lots of those people contribute meaningfully to the household and treat their parents with respect. Tyler seemed to be thinking this over. So if I pay more rent and contribute more to household expenses, things will go back to normal between us? Define normal. You know, back to how we were before you started getting upset about everything. I realized that Tyler still didn't understand the fundamental issue. He thought this was about money, when it was really about respect and reciprocity. Tyler, this isn't just about money. It's about how you treat me and how you view our relationship. I treat you fine. Do you? When was the last time you asked about my work? I ask about your work. When? Give me a specific example. Tyler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. I guess I've been focused on my own stuff lately. It's not lately, Tyler. It's been years. Okay, so I should ask about your work more. I can do that. It's not just about asking. It's about being genuinely interested in my life as a person, not just as someone who provides services for you. I am interested in your life. Are you? Tell me about my photography business. Tyler looked uncomfortable. You take pictures. What kind of pictures? I don't know. Different kinds. Tyler, I specialize in portrait photography for small businesses. I've been building a client base for over a year, and I'm about to launch a website to expand my services. That's great. Did you know I had a client meeting yesterday? No. Did you know I'm considering renting studio space downtown? No. Did you know I made $800 last month from photography? Tyler's eyes widened. Really? Really? But you didn't know because you've never asked about my work beyond polite small talk. Tyler looked genuinely surprised. I didn't realize your photography was that serious. Because you weren't paying attention. I thought it was just a hobby. It's not just a hobby. It's becoming a real business. But you wouldn't know that because you're not interested in anything about my life that doesn't directly affect you. Tyler was quiet for several minutes. I'm sorry. I should have been paying more attention. Yes, you should have. But sorry isn't enough anymore. What do you mean? I mean that I need to see consistent change in how you relate to me, not just apologies when you get caught being self-centered. So what do you want? A schedule of when I'm supposed to ask about your life? I want you to actually care about my life. I do care. Then show me. Ask me questions. Remember the answers. Show interest in my goals and challenges. Treat me like a person whose experiences matter to you. Tyler nodded. I can do that. Can you? Or will you do it for a few days and then forget again? I'll do it consistently. Tyler, you've made promises like this before. This time is different. Why? Because I'm starting to understand what I've been doing wrong. I wanted to believe him, but Tyler's track record of following through on promises was not encouraging. Actions matter more than words, I said. I know. That's why I want to start paying rent and contributing more. Okay, let's talk specifics. What do you think would be a fair monthly contribution? Tyler consulted his notes again. What if I paid $500 a month? That covers most of my costs according to your calculations, and it's what I can realistically afford right now. What about household responsibilities? What do you mean? Cleaning, maintenance, yard work, household management. Are you planning to contribute labor as well as money? I figured the money covered that. $500 covers your basic costs. It doesn't cover the value of household services. Tyler frowned. So you want me to pay rent and do chores? I want you to contribute to maintaining the household you live in. That seems like double payment. Tyler, every adult who lives independently has to both pay for housing and maintain their living space. It's not double payment. It's normal adult responsibility. But if I'm paying you rent, shouldn't you handle the household stuff? Am I your landlord or your mother? What do you mean? I mean, you can't have it both ways. Either I'm your landlord who provides services in exchange for rent, or I'm your mother who expects you to contribute to our shared household responsibilities. Tyler looked confused. Which one are you? I'm your mother, which means I expect you to act like an adult member of this family, not a tenant who pays rent in exchange for maid service. So I pay rent and do chores? You contribute financially and you contribute through labor, just like every other adult. Tyler made more notes on his phone. Okay, $500 a month plus household responsibilities. What household responsibilities are you willing to take on? I don't know. What needs to be done? Tyler, you live here. You can see what needs to be done. But you're better at that stuff than I am. I'm better at it because I've been doing it. You can learn. What if I mess up? Then you'll learn from your mistakes and do better next time. Tyler seemed overwhelmed by the prospect of taking on household responsibilities. This seems like a lot. It's what every independent adult does. But I'm not independent. I live with my mom. That's exactly the problem, Tyler. You're 25 years old. You should be capable of independence. But why would I want to be independent when living here is easier? The honesty of this statement was both refreshing and appalling. Tyler was explicitly acknowledging that he chose dependence because it was easier than taking responsibility for himself. Because independence is how you become a fully functional adult. I am a fully functional adult. Are you? Can you manage a household? Can you handle all of your own personal and professional responsibilities? Can you maintain relationships without expecting other people to do all the emotional labor? Tyler didn't answer immediately. I can run a business. Running a business is one aspect of adult functionality. It's not the only aspect. It's the most important aspect. Is it? What happens when your business is successful, but you can't maintain a home or a relationship because you never learned basic life skills? I'll hire people to handle that stuff. Tyler, you can't hire someone to be emotionally present in your relationships. What do you mean? I mean that the same selfishness that keeps you from doing your own laundry also keeps you from being genuinely interested in other people's lives. Tyler looked offended. I'm not selfish. You're incredibly selfish. But you don't realize it because I've been enabling your selfishness for years. How am I selfish? Tyler, everything in your life revolves around your needs, your goals, your comfort, your convenience. When was the last time you did something purely for someone else's benefit? I do things for other people all the time. Like what? I helped Jake move last month. What did you help him with? I gave him advice about his marketing strategy. That's not helping him move. That's talking about business. Tyler thought for a moment. I drove him to the airport once. When? A few months ago. Why did you drive him to the airport? Because he needed a ride. And what did you get out of it? Nothing, I was just being helpful. Are you sure? Did Jake do anything for you in return? Tyler hesitated. He introduced me to that client I just landed. So you drove Jake to the airport, and he introduced you to a lucrative business client. That's not selfless helping. That's networking. Tyler was starting to look frustrated. So every good thing I do has to have ulterior motives? Not ulterior motives. But there's a difference between helping someone because you care about their well-being and helping someone because you expect something in return. What's wrong with expecting something in return? Nothing if it's mutual. But when you only help people who can help you back, and you expect other people to help you without reciprocating, that's selfish. Tyler was quiet for a moment. You think I only care about people who can do things for me? I think you've learned to see relationships in terms of what you can get from them rather than what you can contribute to them. That's not true. Tyler, name one thing you've done for me in the past month that benefited me without benefiting you. Tyler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. I could see him scrolling through his recent actions, trying to find an example of pure generosity. I can't think of anything specific, he admitted finally. That's the problem. But you're my mom, you're supposed to help me. And you're my son. You're supposed to care about my well-being, too. Tyler rubbed his face with his hands. I do care about your well-being. How do you show that care? I tell you I love you. When? I don't know. Sometimes. Tyler, words without actions aren't very meaningful. So what kind of actions do you want? I want you to be interested in my life. I want you to notice when I'm stressed or tired and offer to help. I want you to consider my needs when you make decisions that affect me. I want you to contribute to my happiness the way I've been contributing to yours. Tyler nodded slowly. I can try to do that. Trying isn't enough anymore. I need to see consistent, genuine change. And if you don't see that change, then our current living arrangement isn't working and we'll need to figure out alternatives. Tyler looked scared for the first time in our conversation. What kind of alternatives? That depends on what you're willing to do to make this relationship work. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Are you? Are you willing to pay fair rent and handle your own responsibilities and treat me with genuine respect and interest? Yes. Are you willing to do those things consistently, even when you're busy or stressed or focused on your business? Tyler hesitated. I'll try. Tyler, either you're willing or you're not. Trying suggests that you might give up when it gets difficult. Okay, yes, I'm willing. Good. Because this is your last chance to prove it. What do you mean? I mean that I've reached the end of my patience with promises that don't turn into lasting change. Either you follow through this time, or you'll need to find somewhere else to live. Tyler stared at me, and I could see him processing the seriousness of what I'd just said. You'd really kick me out? I'd really stop enabling you to treat me badly. And you think making me move out would be good for our relationship? I think setting clear boundaries is the only chance our relationship has to survive. Tyler was quiet for a long time. When do I need to start? Start what? Paying rent. Doing household stuff. Being a better son. Today. 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 Right now. This conversation is over. And your new life as a responsible adult begins immediately. Tyler looked overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. Start by cleaning your room and doing your laundry. Then come downstairs and we'll make a list of household responsibilities you can take on. And the rent? We'll set up a payment schedule, $500 by the first of each month, starting January 1st. What if I can't afford it some month? Then you'll need to find additional income or reduce your expenses. What if my business has a slow period? Then you'll need to figure out how to manage your finances better. Tyler stood up from the kitchen island. This feels like a lot of pressure. This feels like normal adult responsibility. What if I fail? Then you'll learn from your failure and try again. But what if I can't do it? What if I'm not capable of being the kind of person you want me to be? For the first time in our conversation, Tyler sounded genuinely vulnerable rather than just defensive. Tyler, I'm not asking you to become a different person. I'm asking you to become the best version of yourself. What if my best isn't good enough? Your best will always be good enough, but you have to actually try your best, not just promise to try. Tyler nodded and headed toward the stairs. I'm going to start with my room. Good choice. Tyler paused at the bottom of the stairs. Mom? Yes? I really am sorry. For all of it. For taking you for granted and not seeing how I was treating you. I know you are, and I love you. But sorry is just the beginning. I understand. Tyler went upstairs and I could hear him moving around in his room, apparently taking on the task of cleaning and organizing his space. It was a small start, but it was something. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of our conversation, and realized that something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, I had clearly stated my expectations and requirements for our relationship. I had set boundaries and consequences. I had refused to accept promises in place of action. Whether Tyler would follow through remained to be seen. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had some control over my own life. The real test would come in the following weeks and months. Would Tyler sustain his efforts, or would he gradually slip back into old patterns? Would he genuinely develop interest in my life, or would he perform concern until he thought I was satisfied? I didn't know the answers to those questions, but I knew that I was finally ready to find out. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it started with Tyler's room. For the first time in months, I could actually see his floor. Clothes were folded and put away, business papers were organized in neat stacks, and the collection of empty plates and cups that had accumulated over weeks was finally gone. When Tyler called me upstairs to see his progress, I felt a flicker of hope mixed with skepticism. What do you think? Tyler asked, standing in his doorway with an expression that reminded me of when he was 7 years old, proudly showing off a completed homework assignment. It looks great, I said, and I meant it. How does it feel? Weird, actually. I forgot how much bigger the room feels when it's clean. And how long did it take you? Tyler checked his phone. About 3 hours, which is embarrassing because it shouldn't take 3 hours to clean one room. It takes 3 hours when you let it get that messy in the first place. Yeah. Tyler looked around his clean room with what appeared to be genuine satisfaction. I can see why you get frustrated when I let things pile up. It's actually stressful, living in chaos like that. It was the first time Tyler had acknowledged that his messiness affected his own well-being, not just mine. Most of his previous apologies had focused on how his behavior inconvenienced me, as if the only problem was my reaction to his choices. So what's next? I asked. Laundry, I guess. And then I thought maybe I could start on that household responsibilities list you mentioned. We spent the next hour creating a realistic division of labor for maintaining the house. Tyler would be responsible for his own bathroom, the downstairs common areas, and yard work. I would handle my own spaces, and we would alternate weeks for kitchen duties and trash management. It felt almost surreal to be having this conversation with my 25-year-old son, discussing chore schedules like he was a new roommate rather than someone who had been living in my house for 6 years. What about grocery shopping? Tyler asked as we finalized our list. What about it? Do we shop together or separately? However you want to handle it. But you're responsible for buying your own food and contributing to shared household supplies. Tyler made notes on his phone. This is going to be a big adjustment. For both of us. Are you worried I'm going to mess this up? I considered lying to spare his feelings, but Tyler had earned honesty from me. Yes, I'm worried. You've made promises before that you didn't keep. This feels different. How? Because I finally understand what I was doing to you. And to myself. What were you doing to yourself? Tyler sat down on his newly visible bed. I was keeping myself from growing up. Like, I'm 25 and I didn't know how to clean a bathroom properly. That's pathetic. It's not pathetic. It's just something you never learned. But I should have learned it. Most people figure this stuff out in college. Most people don't have mothers who enable them to avoid learning it. Tyler looked at me with surprise. You're blaming yourself? I'm acknowledging my role in creating this situation. I made it too easy for you to stay dependent on me. Why? It was a question I'd been asking myself for weeks. Why had I spent 6 years doing things for Tyler that he was perfectly capable of doing himself? Why had I sacrificed my own needs and goals to support his convenience? Because I confused helping with loving, I said finally. I thought being a good mother meant making your life as easy as possible. But that's not what good mothers do. Good mothers help their children become independent, capable adults. I was doing the opposite. Tyler was quiet for a moment. So we both messed up. We both contributed to an unhealthy dynamic. But I'm the one who took advantage of it. And I'm the one who allowed it to continue for years after it stopped being healthy. Tyler stood up and started pacing around his clean room. So what happens now? Do we just pretend the last 6 years didn't happen? We acknowledge what happened and we do better going forward. What if our relationship is different now? What if setting all these boundaries changes how we relate to each other? Tyler, our relationship has to change. The way we've been relating to each other isn't sustainable. But what if you stop feeling like my mom and start feeling like my landlord? It was a perceptive question, and one I'd been wondering about myself. What makes someone feel like a mother versus a landlord? I don't know. Love, I guess. Caring about someone unconditionally. Do you think I'll stop loving you if you start paying rent and cleaning up after yourself? Maybe not stop loving me, but maybe love me differently. Tyler, I'll always love you, but I might start liking you more. Tyler looked confused. What's the difference? Love is what I feel for you because you're my son. Like is what I feel for you because of who you choose to be, and you don't like who I choose to be right now? I had to think carefully about how to answer this question honestly without being cruel. I love you completely, I said. But I don't like how you've been treating me, or how you've been approaching your responsibilities. That's fair, Tyler said quietly. I haven't been very likable lately. You have the capacity to be incredibly likable. You're smart and funny and creative. But those qualities get overshadowed when you're being selfish and inconsiderate. So if I become more considerate, you'll like me better? If you become more considerate, you'll like yourself better. And that will probably improve all of your relationships. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. I think I see what you mean. The next few weeks brought gradual but noticeable changes. Tyler started doing his own laundry without being reminded. He cleaned his bathroom weekly and kept the downstairs common areas tidy. He bought his own groceries and contributed to household supplies. Most importantly, he began asking about my day and actually listening to the answers. The financial arrangement took longer to establish. Tyler's new client contract provided steady income, but the payments were spread out over 6 months, making his cash flow unpredictable. We worked out a system where he would pay his rent in 2 installments each month, aligned with when he received payments from his clients. This is actually helpful for my budgeting, Tyler admitted as we set up the payment schedule. I've never had to track my expenses this carefully before. Most adults have to budget their money. I know that intellectually, but I never had to practice it. And now you do. And now I do. The first real test came in February when Tyler's client was late with a payment, leaving him short on rent money. The old Carrie would have immediately offered to cover the difference, treating it as a temporary loan that might never be repaid. The new Carrie waited to see how Tyler would handle the problem. Mom, I need to talk to you about rent, Tyler said on a Tuesday evening, looking uncomfortable. What about it? Romano's is late with their payment, so I'm going to be short this month. But I have some freelance work lined up that should pay out next week. Okay. Tyler waited for me to offer a solution, and when I didn't, he continued. So I was wondering if I could pay you late this month and make it up next month. That depends. On what? On what you're doing to solve the cash flow problem. Tyler looked surprised by the question. What do you mean? I mean, what steps are you taking to ensure this doesn't happen again? I'm going to be more careful about payment terms with future clients. What else? What else? What? What else are you doing to address the immediate problem? Tyler seemed confused by my expectation that he should solve his own financial problems. I don't understand what else I could do. Tyler, if you lived in an apartment and couldn't make rent, what would you do? I'd ask my landlord for an extension, and if your landlord said no, I'd figure out how to get the money. How? I don't know, pick up extra work? Borrow money? Sell something? Those are all reasonable options. Tyler's eyes widened as he realized what I was suggesting. You want me to get a part-time job? I want you to solve your own financial problems. But this is just temporary. Once Romanos pays me, I'll be caught up. And what happens the next time a client is late with payment? I'll handle it better. How? Tyler sat down at the kitchen table and put his head in his hands. I don't know. I've never had to deal with this kind of problem before. Because I always solved your financial problems for you. Right? So now you get to learn how to solve them yourself. Tyler looked up at me. Will you give me an extension on rent? Will you pay me a late fee? A late fee? Tyler, if you can't pay your rent on time, there should be a consequence. That's how the real world works. How much of a late fee? What do you think is fair? Tyler pulled out his phone and started searching. It looks like most landlords charge around $50 for late rent. That sounds reasonable. So I can pay you late if I pay a $50 fee? You can pay me late this month if you pay a $50 fee, and show me your plan for avoiding this problem in the future. Tyler spent the rest of the evening working on what he called his financial stability plan. It included building an emergency fund, requiring partial payment upfront from new clients, and taking on some part-time work to supplement his main business income. This is actually kind of eye-opening, Tyler said, showing me his budget spreadsheet. I never realized how tight my margins are. Most small business owners struggle with cash flow, but they don't all live with their parents to avoid dealing with it. No, they don't. So I've been using you as a safety net instead of learning how to manage money properly. That's one way to put it. Tyler leaned back in his chair. This adulting thing is complicated. It gets easier with practice. How much practice? Tyler, you're going to be figuring out adult responsibilities for the rest of your life. There's no graduation ceremony where someone hands you a certificate saying you're officially good at being an adult. That's a terrifying thought. It's also liberating. You get to keep learning and growing and becoming better at managing your life. Tyler nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to understand why you wanted me to figure this stuff out. Tell me? Because you won't always be around to solve my problems for me. It was a sobering realization, and one that I'd been hoping Tyler would reach on his own. And also because solving your own problems makes you stronger and more confident, I added. Does it? Because right now I mostly feel overwhelmed. That's normal when you're learning new skills, but every problem you solve yourself makes the next problem easier to handle. So this gets less scary. This gets less foreign. You'll always have new challenges, but you'll have more experience dealing with challenges in general. Tyler closed his laptop and looked at me. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you wish you'd done this sooner? Set boundaries and made me be more independent? I'd been thinking about this question for months. Yes and no. What do you mean? I wish I'd recognized earlier that enabling you wasn't helping you. But I also think you might not have been ready to hear it until now. What makes you think I'm ready now? Because you're asking thoughtful questions instead of just arguing with me. Because you're taking responsibility for your choices instead of blaming circumstances. Because you seem genuinely interested in growing up instead of just avoiding consequences. Tyler smiled. I am interested in growing up. Finally. What changed? I think seeing myself through your eyes helped. When you pointed out that I was treating you like hired help, I realized I didn't like the person I'd become. And who do you want to become? Someone you can be proud of. Someone who contributes to relationships instead of just taking from them. Someone who can handle his own life without needing constant support. Those are good goals. Are they realistic goals? Tyler, you're already making progress toward all of them. Am I? You're treating me with more respect and consideration than you have in years. You're handling your own responsibilities. You're asking for advice instead of demanding solutions. It doesn't feel like enough. Change is gradual. You don't undo 6 years of habits overnight. Tyler stood up and started loading his dinner dishes into the dishwasher without being asked. It was a small gesture, but it represented the kind of automatic consideration that had been missing from our relationship for years. Mom, can I tell you something? Always. I think I'm happier now. Really? Yeah. I mean, I'm more stressed about money and I have more chores and I can't just ignore problems anymore, but I feel better about myself. Why do you think that is? Because I'm not constantly disappointing you, and I'm not constantly disappointing myself. Were you disappointing yourself before? Tyler finished with the dishes and turned to face me. All the time. Every time I left a mess for you to clean or asked you to handle something I should have handled myself, I knew I was being lazy and selfish. But it was easier to ignore that feeling than to change my behavior. And now when I solve a problem myself or clean up after myself, I feel proud instead of guilty. That's a significant shift. It is, and I think it's making me better at other things too, like my business. I'm more organized, more proactive, more professional. How so? I started responding to client emails faster because I got used to handling things promptly instead of putting them off. I organized my office because I got used to keeping my living space tidy. I set up better financial systems because I had to learn budgeting for household expenses. So taking responsibility in one area helped you take responsibility in other areas? Exactly. It's like responsibility is a habit that spreads. I felt a warmth in my chest that I hadn't experienced in years. This was what pride in your adult child felt like. Not pride in their achievements, but pride in their character growth. I'm proud of you, I said. Tyler's face lit up. Really? Really. You've made some difficult changes, and you've stuck with them even when it was hard. It has been hard, but it's also been worth it. How can you tell? Because I like myself better. And I think you like me better too. I do like you better. But more importantly, I respect you more. What's the difference? Liking someone is about enjoying their company. Respecting someone is about admiring their choices and character. Tyler was quiet for a moment. I want both. I want people to like me and respect me. Those things usually go together. People who make good choices and treat others well tend to be both likable and respectable. Is that what you think I'm becoming? I think you're in the process of becoming that person. What do I still need to work on? It was a mature question, showing that Tyler was genuinely interested in continued growth rather than just wanting reassurance. I think you're still learning how to balance your own needs with other people's needs, I said. You're much better at considering my perspective, but it's still not automatic for you. How can I make it more automatic? Practice. Every time you make a decision that affects someone else, try to think about how it impacts them. Every time you interact with someone, try to show genuine interest in their experience. Tyler nodded. Like asking about your photography business instead of just assuming you'll always be available to help with my business. Exactly. And offering to help with your projects instead of always asking for help with mine. That would be nice, Tyler grinned. Speaking of which, do you need any help with your website launch? Actually, yes. I could use someone to take some behind-the-scenes photos for my portfolio. I could do that. I'm not a great photographer, but I could learn. That would be wonderful. Tyler looked pleased with himself. See? I'm already getting better at this. Spring brought new challenges and new growth. Tyler's business continued to expand, and he landed 2 additional clients that provided more stable income. With his improved financial situation, he was able to increase his rent contribution to $700 a month and take on more household expenses. More importantly, Tyler began showing genuine interest in my life and goals. He helped me set up lighting for photo shoots, drove me to client meetings when my car was in the shop, and even referred a potential client to me when someone in his network needed portrait photography. You know what's funny? Tyler said one evening as we worked together in the garden, planting flowers for the upcoming season. What? I used to think independence meant not needing anyone. But I think it actually means being able to choose how you connect with people instead of being forced to depend on them. That's a very mature insight. Like I pay rent now and handle my own responsibilities, so when I ask for your advice or help with something, it's because I value your input, not because I can't function without you. And how does that feel different? It feels like we're equals. Like we're both adults choosing to support each other instead of one person taking care of the other person. Is that better? So much better. I actually look forward to our conversations now, because they're not just you telling me what I need to do, or me asking you to solve my problems. What are they instead? They're actually conversations. About your work and my work, and what we're both thinking about and planning for the future. Tyler was right. Our relationship had fundamentally shifted from a parent-child dynamic to something more like a friendship between adults. We still had the underlying bond of family, but we interacted with mutual respect and consideration. Can I ask you something personal? Tyler said as he planted a row of marigolds. Sure. Do you ever regret not dating while I was living here? The question caught me off guard. What makes you ask that? I was thinking about how much of your life you put on hold to take care of me. And I realized I never asked if you wanted to be in a relationship. I thought about it sometimes. But you didn't pursue it because of me? Not entirely because of you. But having an adult child living at home does complicate dating. How? It's hard to explain to a potential partner that your 25-year-old son lives with you and expects you to handle all his personal responsibilities. It doesn't exactly scream, quote, independent, emotionally available woman. Tyler looked genuinely troubled by this revelation. I never thought about how my dependence on you affected other areas of your life. It's not entirely your fault. I chose to prioritize your needs over my own social life. But if I'd been more independent, you would have had more freedom to pursue relationships? Probably. Tyler was quiet for several minutes, focused intently on his planting. Are you interested in dating now? I might be. Why? Because I want you to know that you shouldn't consider me when making decisions about your personal life. If you want to date someone, or travel, or do anything that makes you happy, I support that completely. Thank you. That means a lot. And if you ever want me to make myself scarce for an evening or a weekend, just let me know. I can stay with Jake or get a hotel room or whatever. Tyler, you don't have to disappear from your own home if I start dating someone. I know, but I want you to feel completely free to live your life however makes you happiest. What brought this on? Tyler sat back on his heels and looked at me. I guess I'm realizing that loving someone means wanting them to be happy, even if their happiness doesn't directly benefit you. That's exactly what loving someone means. It took me a really long time to learn that. You're learning it now. That's what matters. I hope it's not too late. Too late for what? For us to have a good relationship. For you to live the life you want. For me to become someone worth knowing. Tyler, it's never too late to become a better person. And our relationship is already better than it's been in years. Do you think it will keep getting better? I think it will if we both keep working at it. Tyler smiled and returned to his planting. I'm willing to keep working at it. So am I. As summer approached, Tyler made an announcement that surprised me. He had decided to look for his own apartment. Not because things aren't working here, he explained quickly when he saw my expression, but because I think it's time. Time for what? Time for me to prove to myself that I can live independently. Time for you to have your house back. Time for both of us to choose to spend time together, instead of being thrown together by circumstances. How do you feel about living on your own? Terrified, Tyler admitted with a laugh, but also excited. I want to see if I can handle everything myself. I think you can. Really? Really? You've learned all the skills you need. Now you just need to practice using them. What if I mess up? Then you'll figure out how to fix your mistakes. That's what adults do. Tyler began looking at apartments that summer, and I found myself experiencing a mixture of emotions I hadn't expected. Pride in his readiness to live independently. Excitement about having my house to myself again. A touch of sadness about the end of this chapter of our lives together. And underneath it all, genuine happiness that Tyler was choosing independence from a place of strength, rather than being forced out due to conflict. I found a place, Tyler announced in August, showing me photos on his phone. It's a one-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from here. Nothing fancy, But it's clean and affordable, and the landlord seems reasonable. It looks perfect. I can move in September 1st, which gives me a few weeks to save up for the security deposit and get organized. Do you need help with anything? Actually, yes. But not the kind of help you probably expect. What kind of help? I want to make sure I'm not forgetting any adult responsibilities. Like, I know I need renter's insurance, and I need to set up utilities. But what else? What are the things that adults have to handle that I might not think of? We spent the evening making a comprehensive list of everything Tyler would need to manage in his own apartment. Bank account management, healthcare coordination, home maintenance, social connections, emergency preparedness. It was a long list, but Tyler approached it with enthusiasm rather than overwhelm. This is actually exciting, he said as we reviewed the list. Like, I'm finally going to be a complete adult. You're already a complete adult. Now you're just going to be an independent adult. Is there a difference? Being an adult is about maturity and responsibility. Being independent is about self-sufficiency. And you think I'm ready for both? I know you are. Tyler moved out on a sunny Saturday in September. He had enlisted Jake and Marcus to help with the heavy lifting, and I provided sandwiches and drinks for the moving crew. As I watched Tyler organize his new kitchen and set up his workspace, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. Not accomplishment in Tyler's success, though I was proud of that too. Accomplishment in my own growth. I had recognized an unhealthy dynamic, set boundaries, maintained those boundaries even when it was difficult, and helped both Tyler and myself become better versions of ourselves. How does it feel? I asked Tyler as we stood in his fully moved-in apartment that evening. Scary and amazing and right, Tyler said. Like this is what I should have been doing all along. And how do you feel about our relationship now? Better than ever. I feel like we're actually friends now, instead of me just being your responsibility. You were never just my responsibility. You were always my son. But now I'm your son by choice, not by default. What do you mean? I mean, now when we spend time together, it's because we both want to, not because we're stuck living in the same house. Tyler was right. Over the following months, we developed a new rhythm of connection. Tyler would come over for dinner once or twice a week, and I would visit his apartment occasionally to see how he was settling in. We texted regularly, sharing updates about our work and asking for each other's advice on various decisions. Most importantly, our interactions became genuinely reciprocal. Tyler was as interested in my photography business as I was in his marketing work. He offered to help with my projects as often as I offered support for his. He remembered details about my life and asked follow-up questions about things I'd mentioned in previous conversations. You know what I realized? Tyler said during one of our weekly dinners at my house in November. What? I used to think that needing you made me weak. And then I thought that not needing you made me strong. But actually, choosing to have you in my life because I love and respect you makes me strongest of all. That's beautiful. And I think the same thing is true for you. You're not taking care of me because you have to anymore. You're supporting me because you want to. Exactly. So we both chose each other. We both chose each other. Tyler smiled. I like the family we chose to be much better than the family we accidentally became. I thought about the woman I had been a year earlier, exhausted and invisible in my own home, measuring my worth by how much I could sacrifice for my son's convenience. That woman couldn't have imagined feeling this proud of Tyler, this respectful of myself, or this hopeful about our future relationship. Do you ever regret how long it took us to figure this out? Tyler asked. I regret that it took us so long to have honest conversations about what we needed from each other. But I don't regret the journey, because it led us here. Where's here? Here is you being a man I genuinely admire and enjoy spending time with. Here is me being a woman who knows her own worth and doesn't apologize for having boundaries. Here is us having a relationship built on mutual respect instead of obligation. I like here, so do I. Tyler helped me clean up after dinner, something that had become automatic for him rather than something he had to be reminded to do. As he loaded the dishwasher, he said, I have something to tell you. What? I've been seeing someone, a woman I met through work. Her name is Sarah, and she's really wonderful. That's exciting. Tell me about her. Tyler's face lit up as he described Sarah, a freelance graphic designer who shared his passion for helping small businesses succeed. They had been dating for 2 months, and Tyler was clearly smitten. The best part is, I think I'm actually good at relationships now, Tyler said. What makes you think that? Because I've learned how to be interested in someone else's life and how to contribute to their happiness instead of just taking from it. Those are important relationship skills. I learned them from watching how badly I handled our relationship and then learning how to do better. So our struggles helped you become a better partner? They helped me become a better person, which makes me a better partner, a better son, a better friend, and a better everything else. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of both of us. As Tyler prepared to leave that evening, he turned to me at the door. Mom, I need to say something. What? Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for caring enough to have difficult conversations and set boundaries and push me to become better. Thank you for loving me enough to risk our relationship in order to save it. Thank you for being willing to change. Thank you for caring enough about our relationship to do the hard work of growing up. Tyler hugged me, and it felt different than our hugs used to feel. Less desperate, more genuine. Less obligatory, more chosen. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Tyler. As I watched Tyler drive away to his own apartment, his own independent life, his own bright future, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete satisfaction with who I was and what I had accomplished. I had raised a son who became a man. I had maintained a relationship through necessary conflict. I had discovered my own worth and learned to protect it. I had proven to myself that love sometimes means saying no, that helping sometimes means stopping help, and that the best gift you can give someone is the opportunity to become their strongest self. I had become the mother I always wanted to be by learning when to stop being the mother I thought I should be. 6 months later, Tyler called me with news. Sarah had moved in with him, and they were talking about marriage. He wanted me to meet her properly, not just the brief introduction we'd had at a coffee shop, but a real dinner where we could get to know each other. I want her to understand what kind of family she's joining, Tyler said. I want her to see that we're the kind of people who can work through problems and come out stronger. What if she doesn't like me? She's gonna love you. But even if she didn't, it wouldn't change anything between us. You and I chose our relationship, and that choice isn't dependent on anyone else's approval. The dinner went beautifully. Sarah was indeed wonderful, warm and intelligent, and clearly devoted to Tyler. More importantly, I could see that Tyler was a genuinely good partner to her. He listened when she spoke, he remembered details about her work, he considered her needs when making plans. He had become the kind of man who enhanced his partner's life rather than complicating it. Tyler talks about you all the time, Sarah told me as we sat on my back porch after dinner enjoying the warm spring evening. He says you taught him how to be a good partner by showing him what real love looks like. What does he mean by that? He says real love means caring enough about someone to tell them difficult truths. It means supporting their growth even when their growth is inconvenient for you. It means choosing them over and over again, not just accepting them by default. I felt tears prick my eyes. He learned those lessons the hard way. He says you both did, but he thinks that makes them more meaningful. What do you think about all this? About Tyler living with me for so long and the conflicts we had? Sarah smiled. I think you raised a man who can learn from his mistakes and who isn't afraid of difficult conversations. I think you taught him that relationships require work and that work is worth doing. Those are qualities I want in a life partner. And what does Tyler think about your assessment? He agrees completely. He says he used to think love meant never having to change for someone. Now he thinks love means being willing to become your best self for someone who believes you can. As the evening wound down, and Tyler and Sarah prepared to leave, Tyler pulled me aside. Mom, Sarah and I have been talking about the future. What kind of future? Marriage? Kids? Building a life together. How do you feel about that? Excited. Ready. Confident that I can be a good husband and father. What makes you confident about that? Because I know what it looks like to put someone else's needs above your own convenience. I know what it looks like to work through conflict instead of avoiding it. I know what it looks like to choose love over comfort. You learned all that? I learned all that from you. From watching you love me enough to make me grow up. Tyler hugged me goodbye, and as I watched him and Sarah drive away together, I felt the deep satisfaction of a job well done. Not the job of raising a child, but the harder job of helping that child become an adult worthy of love and respect. I had kept my promise to myself. I had refused to remain invisible in my own life. I had demanded better and received it. I had proven that it's never too late to change a relationship, to set boundaries, to choose respect over convenience. I had learned that the best gift you can give someone you love is the opportunity to become someone you can genuinely admire. And in teaching Tyler how to be a man worthy of love, I had remembered how to be a woman worthy of respect. Standing in my quiet house that night, surrounded by evidence of a life that was finally and completely my own, I felt proud of both of us. Proud of Tyler for doing the difficult work of growing up. Proud of myself for having the courage to demand that growth. I had been right to become his landlord. It had saved us both. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.